Right then.
Okay. Right, so this was an engine that the owner asked me to look at. It had been rebuilt about 26 years ago by somebody else and then put into the chassis. But the owner wasn't very happy with the standard of work that had been done on the chassis. So he brought the engine to me with from the point of view of putting it on the test bed and running it and see what I thought of it. It was smoking quite heavily on overrun once the engine had warmed up. So I suspected that maybe there was some problems with the valve guides on it. And when I started to take it apart, then obviously you can see the sorts of problems I encountered. If you can see that, there's quite a bit of wear on that valve guide there, valve stem, sorry. And similarly that one, it's the same. But also, somebody had replaced the valve exhaust valve guides, but hadn't replaced the exhaust valve guides, but they had replaced the valves. But because they hadn't replaced the guides, very quickly, even though they'd only just run the engine up occasionally, it had caused the valve stems to wear. So I had to replace those as well. Other things that I discovered as I stripped the engine down was that, unfortunately, the exhaust camshaft particularly was quite pitted in the most important point of all, which is right on the end of the lobe of the camshaft. I suspect that's because at some time the engine had been stored somewhere and it got very, very wet, and water had just lain on the camshaft for a goodly number of years, which of course had caused the pitting. The other thing that whoever put it back together had done, they put tappets back in it that had also got heavily pitted due to water. You can see that. And also there's a lot of scuffing on the sides of the tappets as well. So the tappets obviously were replaced, and also the tappet guides, which we discovered some of them were a bit loose. On the valve gear, the eccentric shaft that tightens the top chain up, as you can see, the shaft there is quite badly worn, which is quite a common thing actually. There's some quite deep grooves in that. And similarly, the timing chain guides, or dampers as they're called, these are the very early type dampers, and they're quite badly worn, as you can see, and grooved. But for some reason he decided to change the chains but didn't replace the dampers, which seems a bit silly to me, but there we are. The other thing I found with it, which is a common problem, this is the distance piece that the front oil seal runs on. And what people do is, if this is badly worn, you can turn it round on the crankshaft so that the actual lip seal runs in a different point on the spacer. But as you can see, that's quite heavily worn in both ways, so there's no way that would have run, and you couldn't be certain that wasn't going to leak even with a new seal. The crankshaft was in fairly good condition, but I don't think it had been reground to a very good standard. Here's a couple of the big end shells, as you can see. Although it hadn't gone through to the copper base on the shells, you can see there's some quite nasty score marks on there. And similarly, the crankshaft was the same, so I had to have the crankshaft reground. So that's about it really. We completely stripped it. It was rebuilt with a new high pressure oil pump and a high efficiency water pump, D-type camshafts and bigger valves as well. So it's all back in one piece now, and we'll start it up and let you have a listen to it.